What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and today we are diving into a story that is so strange, so powerful, and honestly kind of heartbreaking that it changes how you look at both Superman and Doctor Strange forever, because this is the story of how Superman broke the Soul Stone, and not just that, it's the story of what came out of it, because see, the Soul Stone isn't like the other Infinity Stones. It doesn't just control energy, or space, or time. It's personal, it's ancient, it takes something from you, and when Superman shattered it, the stone didn't just die, it revealed something that no one expected. Doctor Strange saw what was inside it, and he saw himself. Now look, this isn't a multiverse-hopping action fest. This is deeper than that. This is about buried truth, about sacrifice, and about how even the strongest heroes hide pain they don't want anyone to see. Superman didn't mean to break the stone at first, but when he finally did, it sent a shockwave through reality. The Soul Stone screamed, time itself paused, and in that frozen moment, Strange saw a part of his own soul, a part he thought he buried a long time ago. So what does it mean? What was that version of Strange trapped inside the stone? Why was the Soul Stone inside Superman to begin with, and what happens now that it's broken? That's what we're going to explore today, so strap in because this one's heavy. And I promise you, it's not just about cosmic magic or Kryptonian strength, it's about something more important. It's about who we are when no one's looking, so let's get into it. Before everything fell apart, before the Soul Stone cracked open and showed the face of Doctor Strange trapped inside, before Superman tore it from his chest like it was poison, the world was already falling, and not just Earth, the entire multiverse was crumbling. Reality had been in chaos for months as dimensional barriers were breaking down, and shadow versions of heroes were crossing over into worlds where they didn't belong. Whole timelines were collapsing without warning, and some worlds simply blinked out of existence, like they were never real in the first place. And at the center of it all were two people trying to hold everything together: Superman and Doctor Strange. Now you might not think of these two as a natural team, because one is the ultimate symbol of hope, while the other is the master of the mystic arts. But here's the truth: when the multiverse breaks, strength and magic have to work side by side, so together they were working on a last resort, a desperate plan that no one else would dare to attempt. Strange believed there was one way to fix the leaks across all universes, and that was to find the missing Soul Stone, not to use it but to contain it, to seal it inside a magical anchor that would stop the ripple effects and stabilize the dying timelines. But here was the problem: no one could find it. Every reading they took, every magical scan across realities, all came up empty, like the Soul Stone was hiding from them deliberately. And that's when something strange began to happen. Doctor Strange started having visions, and these weren't dreams, they weren't nightmares, these were messages, these were warnings, and in each vision, he would see the same thing: a glowing orange light pulsing like a heartbeat. Buried deep inside, something alive, something Kryptonian. At first, he didn't believe it, and no one else did either. But then he started noticing changes in Superman's small things. At first, like how he would pause during conversations, or how he said he could feel people in ways he never could before. Superman told him the pain of others was sticking to him, like it was becoming part of who he was. And then came the moment that changed everything. Doctor Strange performed one final magical scan, a multiversal one, and he didn't just check for the stone. He searched for the energy signature of a soul-trapped relic, and every path, every line, every reading pointed straight to Superman. That was the moment Strange realized the Soul Stone wasn't lost. It had already been found, and it was alive inside the Man of Steel. So how did this happen? How did one of the most powerful cosmic objects in the universe, the Soul Stone, end up inside Superman? Because to understand that, we need to go back to a battle most people don't even remember. It wasn't on Earth. It wasn't even in our galaxy. It happened during the last great celestial rift war, when strange tears in space opened between universes and whole civilizations were falling through with millions of lives at risk. Superman did what he always does: he tried to save everyone, but there was a moment, a single moment, where he had to make an impossible choice. A celestial being older than stars appeared before him, and this wasn't a villain, it wasn't a monster, it was just a force, something ancient, something beyond good or evil, and it said to Superman, 1,000,000,000 lives for one yours. Superman didn't even hesitate. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't ask for help. He simply said yes. But the celestial didn't take his body. It didn't kill him. It did something far worse. It marked his soul. It pulled a part of his spirit, the part that holds pain, love, and memory, and offered it to the Soul Stone as payment, and the stone accepted. From that moment on, it lived inside him. It didn't control him. It didn't change his thoughts, not at first, but it changed how he felt the world. After that day, Superman stopped sleeping. He said he could hear things Not sounds, but feelings. Regret, guilt, love, grief. And they weren't his. They were coming from other people, from strangers. He could walk past someone and feel the death of their father, or the pain of a broken heart, or the moment they gave up on themselves. It was overwhelming, and he kept it to himself because that's what Superman does. He carries pain. Others don't have to, but over time, it got worse. He started seeing flashes of possible deaths, people who weren't in danger yet but soon would be a falling bridge, a burning house, a child choking, and he'd show up just in time. At first the world thought Superman was becoming something greater. Some called it evolution, some called it divine, but it wasn't evolution, it was the Soul Stone, showing him souls, their fears, their fate, their pain. It was feeding on him quietly, draining him slowly. And Superman, he didn't want to fight it because even if it hurt, it helped him save people, and that was worth any price, or so he thought. At first, Dr. Strange didn't want to believe it, because the idea that Superman, the strongest symbol of hope in the universe, had the Soul Stone inside him just didn't feel right. But magic doesn't lie, and Strange had spent weeks searching, using every spell he knew, reading energy patterns across dimensions, looking at fragments of time that hadn't happened yet, and every single reading pointed to one place, Superman. But it wasn't just a location, it was something deeper. Strange saw it during meditation while floating inside the mirror dimension, a space where thought becomes shape, and shape becomes truth. And for a brief second, he saw an orange light, the glow of the Soul Stone, pulsing like a heartbeat inside a man's chest. And the chest wore the symbol of hope. At that moment, Strange knew he didn't want to believe it, but he couldn't deny it anymore. So he did the one thing he didn't want to do. He went to Superman. The two met in silence. No cameras, no satellites, just a mountaintop on a dead planet orbiting a black hole, a place where even thoughts feel heavy. Strange didn't speak right away, he just looked at him, and Superman already knew. "You saw it, didn't you?" Superman said. Strange nodded. "How long?" he asked. "Since the Rift War," Superman answered. "Since the deal, since the day I gave up part of myself." Strange looked down. His hands were shaking just a little. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked. "Because I could save more lives with it," Superman said. "I could feel people hurting. I could stop things before they happened. It cost me, but it helped them. You know it's killing you, right?" Strange said, "I know," Superman answered. "I just didn't care." "Well, now you have to." Strange told him why. Superman asked. "Because it's not just hurting you anymore. The stone's energy is leaking. It's shaking. The balanced souls are pulling away from their bodies. Realities are losing their roots. That stone doesn't belong in you or in anyone." Superman looked away. "If I remove it, people die. If I keep it, I die. If I break it, I don't know what happens, neither do I." Strange said quietly, "But if you don't, everything breaks." There was a long silence, even on a dead planet. It felt heavy. Superman clenched his fists. His chest pulsed faintly, with orange light, not bright, just barely glowing under the skin. The Soul Stone wasn't hiding anymore. "You ever make a choice?" Superman said that you knew was right, but still felt wrong. Strange nodded. Almost every day Superman stood and looked up into the endless dark. "If this goes bad," he said, "promise me something, anything." Strange replied, "Stop whatever comes next. No matter what it is, you have my word." And with that, Superman flew off into the stars to do something no one had ever done: break the Soul Stone. When Superman left Strange on that dead world, he didn't go home. He didn't go to Lois. He didn't go to the Justice League. He didn't go anywhere safe. He flew to the edge of existence, to a place where stars were so old they had forgotten how to shine, where gravity barely held shape, where even time felt tired, a place beyond life, beyond magic, beyond sound. Because if he failed here, no one would die but him. He hovered alone in the void, silent, still feeling every heartbeat like a countdown. His cape didn't move. There was no wind, just darkness and memory. The Soul Stone pulsed faintly inside him like a second heart, and then Superman spoke, not out loud, but inward. "If this kills me, let it mean something." He reached into his own chest, not physically, not with strength, but with will. Kryptonian biology should make something like that impossible, but the Soul Stone wasn't just fused to him, it was part of him. As he pulled, the universe resisted the stone, fought back, and in that moment, it showed him everything it had taken, everything it had fed on. Jonathan Kent dying in his arms, Krypton exploding across the sky, Lois falling from a rooftop, a memory from another timeline where he was too late. Flash dying in the future because Clark wasn't fast enough. Every failure, every regret, every voice, he couldn't save the stone. Weaponized guilt, because that's what it is. Not a gem, not an object, but a hunger. But Superman didn't break. He kept pulling, even as his hands shook, even as visions tore through his mind like shards of glass. He whispered softly like a prayer, I am more than what I've lost, and the stone cracked just a hairline fracture, tiny but real, and with it came sound a scream. Across existence, not physical but spiritual, a billion trapped whispers crying at once. Superman staggered, but he didn't stop. He dug deeper fingers, curled into light itself, and tore the soul stone from his body. The color was blinding orange like fire, orange like memory. It dripped. Soul energy like blood. For the first time in history, someone held the soul stone, not as power, but as pain made solid. Superman looked at it, and it looked back, and then he crushed it with his bare hand. The universe reacted instantly as a pulse tore through reality like a shockwave, a ripple of souls bursting free from centuries of imprisonment. The sun nearest to him flickered galaxies, stalled, then lurched back into motion, like they had forgotten how to exist. Every soul screamed, every dimension vibrated, every dead whisper finally exhaled, and in that blinding moment, frozen in white light so bright it erased every shadow, Dr. Strange saw something through Superman's eyes. He saw himself. Not a mirror, not a reflection, but a second Strange trapped inside the stone. Older, colder, scarred, a Strange who remembered things the real one did not, a Strange who had touched the soul stone long ago and left something behind, a piece of his soul. A secret he hoped would never resurface, but it just did, because when Superman broke the stone, he didn't just set souls free, he released them. Superman collapsed, drifting weightless, glowing with shattered soul fragments, half alive, half empty. A man who saved billions by breaking something no one was meant to touch. He saved reality, but something else was born from that break: souls without bodies. Bodies without souls, remnants without memories, and at the center of it all, Dr. Strange now knew the truth. He hadn't come to Superman to fix the multiverse. He came because his past apart, he buried, was finally coming back, and it was no longer alone, because before Strange was the Sorcerer Supreme, before he became Earth's defender. Against the dark, Stephen Strange was desperate. There was a time, in a lost universe long forgotten, when Strange used the Soul Stone himself, not to fight, not to protect, but to bring someone back, a loved one. A mistake, and it cost him more than he ever admitted, because the Soul Stone takes always. It took a part of him, a piece of his spirit that held regret, shame, and grief, and locked it away like a memory too painful to remember. Over time, Strange forgot it, or maybe he convinced himself it never happened, but the Soul Stone never forgets. So when Superman crushed it, that piece of Strange broke free, and now Strange was watching himself, his other self, staring back through the fracture in reality, like a mirror that didn't reflect, just reminded. The old version spoke not with words, but with feeling, pain, isolation, the weight of choices made in secret. It wasn't a warning, it wasn't a message, it was a confession, forced into the open. Strange realized in that moment he wasn't just the man who saved worlds, he was also the man who broke one long ago. Quietly alone, he came to Superman thinking the Soul Stone was just hurting Clark, but now he understood. The stone wasn't just bonded to Superman, it was bound to him, to not physically, not magically, but karmically, because souls don't just carry power. They carry choices, and the Soul Stone had been waiting all this time for both of them to look at what they'd tried to bury. When the vision ended, Strange stood still, silent. His hands were trembling. Superman lay unconscious beneath him, floating in a cloud of scattered soul light, glowing like ash from a fire that had just burned the truth into the sky. And Strange whispered only two words: "It's me." The multiverse didn't shake. There were no explosions, no collapsing stars, no portals, just one man, one soul, one truth, finally faced. From this moment on, Strange would never be the same, because he didn't just witness a powerful event, he witnessed himself. The parts he never wanted to admit were real, and now that they were free, he had no idea what they would become. When the Soul Stone shattered, it shattered more than a cosmic relic, it shattered secrets. It cracked memory, and the universe reacted, but no one felt it like Superman, because he was the one who broke it. He was the one who carried it. He was the one who let it live inside him until it couldn't anymore. And now something was missing when Superman fell back to Earth. He didn't crash. He drifted like a feather made of light. He landed in a quiet valley, far from cities, far from people. The grass didn't move, the wind didn't blow, the sky didn't speak, and neither did he. Batman was the first to find him. He scanned for injuries, and there were none, not physical at least. But when he said Clark, there was no answer. Superman's eyes were open, his breathing was steady, his heartbeat was strong, but it was like he wasn't there, like a window, with no one behind it, like a radio still powered on, but tuned to silence. They took him to the fortress. They ran every scan, every test, every magical probe. Zatanna, Martian Manhunter, even Cyborg couldn't explain it. His body was fine, but his soul was quiet to quiet. Alfred visited him to sat beside him for hours, brought tea, told stories, even read old letters from Jonathan Kent's journals. Nothing changed. He later told Bruce, "It's like he's dreaming, but without sleep." "Is he in pain?" Bruce asked. "No." Alfred said, "That's what scares me most." Wonder Woman said she could still feel him, not with her eyes, not with her mind, but with her heart. "He's still here," she told Strange, "but he's not whole." Strange didn't answer because he knew. Superman had given a part of himself to the Soul Stone, and when he destroyed it, that part didn't come back. See, the Soul Stone doesn't just store power, it stores connection, emotions, bonds, echoes of people you've saved, and people you've lost for years. Superman had carried the voices of others. He heard children crying across oceans. He felt fear before disasters happened. He saved lives before they were ever in danger. Because he could feel the soul calling for help, and now silence, no more whispers, no more visions, no more feelings that didn't belong to him. Just empty air. It's easy to think that peace is a gift, but for Superman, that noise, that endless soul calling, was part of his purpose. Without it, he wasn't just quieter, he was less strange, stayed by his side longer than anyone. He didn't try to heal him. He didn't use magic, he just sat because he knew what this was. Not death, not sleep, this was the cost. The quiet after sacrifice, the kind of silence that only comes when you've given away more than anyone ever asked of you. And no one can give it back. And while Superman sat there, eyes open, unmoving, the universe kept turning, but something inside. It had changed because now a man who once heard the pain of millions couldn't even hear his own. When Superman broke the Soul Stone, he thought he was ending something, a curse, a burden, a quiet war, inside himself, and for a moment, he was right, but only for a moment, because what no one realized was that the Soul Stone didn't just hold one soul. It held millions, and when it broke, those souls didn't disappear. They escaped at first. It was whispers, tiny echoes in broken corners of the multiverse, little flickers of emotion, where no one lived, brief shadows crossing stars that had no planets. Most heroes didn't notice, but Strange did, because these weren't ghosts, they weren't spirits, they weren't alive, they were something new, soul fragments. Broken pieces of memory, emotion, identity, drifting across reality like sparks from a shattered fire, and soon they started forming bodies. The first one appeared in Universe 89, a man made of light and ash, standing at the center of a collapsed city. No heartbeat, no name, but one word written across his chest in pulsing orange light. Cal. Then another in Universe 23, this one had no face, no skin, just a voice, whispering one name over and over. Stephen. They weren't clones, they weren't variants, they were soul echoes born from grief, built from memory, missing only one thing: purpose, and that made them dangerous, because without purpose they searched for identity, for meaning, for something or someone to complete them, and some of them started copying powers. The Cal fragment could fly, the Stephen fragment could bend reality. Not perfectly, but enough to hurt others. Started showing up with traces of Wanda, of Zod, of Diana. Each one was like a broken sentence trying to finish itself. Dr. Strange gathered the surviving sorcerers, and he called them ecoforms. Not alive, not dead, but reactive. They didn't attack on their own, they responded to pain, to emotion, to regret. Wherever someone grieved, they appeared. Wherever someone hated themselves, they lingered, and in a world full of broken people, that meant they were everywhere. The Justice League tried to contain them, but how do you fight something that has no goal, no agenda? Just feeling. Batman called it a soul storm. Zatanna called it an infection. Cyborg called it soul code, scattered programming written in emotion instead of logic. But whatever it was spreading, and then came the worst part. I echo. Just one found its way back to the fortress. It stood outside, didn't speak, didn't move, just waited. When Wonder Woman approached it, looked at her, and whispered, "You left him too," and then it vanished. She didn't tell anyone what it meant, but her hands were shaking. These fragments, these soul-born threats, weren't invaders, they were reflections, each one showing the universe something it didn't want to see. And at the center of it all, still unmoving, still silent, was Superman, the man who freed them, the man they might still be calling back to. Not all stories end with victory, and some end with understanding. And that's what this was, because Superman didn't win a battle, he didn't defeat a villain. He didn't save the day with a perfect plan, he just made a choice to break something that no one else dared to touch, a choice that couldn't be undone. Dr. Strange visited him again, still silent, still in that quiet valley. Beneath the fortress, Superman sat alone on a stone bench, staring out at nothing. No cape, no armor, no mask, just Clark. Strange didn't speak at first, then finally softly, "Do you regret it?" Superman didn't look at him, but he blinked just once, and then came the answer. "It hurt, but it helped." "You gave up something you'll never get back," Strange said. "Yeah." Superman whispered, "But I gave it up so someone else wouldn't have to." Strange stood still for a long time. Then he said the one thing Superman didn't expect. "Thank you." See, Strange now understood. He had tried to hide his mistake, bury it, forget it, seal it inside the Soul Stone, and never look back. But Superman, he had carried it, he lived with it, and when it was finally time, he let it go. Not for himself, but for everyone else. And that's what made him Superman. Not the flight, not the strength, not the heat vision or the speed, but the willingness to carry pain, even when no one saw it, even when no one said thank you, even when it would never go away. That's the difference between power and purpose. Later, Strange would write in his journal, "The Soul Stone is gone, but it was never the problem. The problem was us, what we chose to forget, what we chose to bury." Superman didn't destroy a weapon, he set truth free. The echoes still roam the multiverse, still shakes, but something changed because now every hero, every soul, remembers one thing: it had to be done, and only Superman had the heart to do it. 2 weeks later, a signal goes out from Earth. Encrypted, ancient, and only a few in the universe can even recognize the frequency. It doesn't come from Batman, not from the League, not even from Doctor Strange. It comes from Superman, or what's left of him, and the message says only this: they're forming. The echoes are remembering. I won't be able to stop them next time. Bring everyone who's ever touched a stone. We're going to need them somewhere in deep space. A cloaked figure receives the message. They open a small glass box, and inside it is a single orange spark flickering like it's waiting for a home. They smile and say, "So it begins again." And that's where we'll leave it for now, because this story was more than just about Superman or Strange. It was about buried pain, sacrifice, and truth that costs you everything. Superman didn't break the Soul Stone to win, he broke it because someone had to, and in doing so, he set loose something bigger than anyone imagined. So the real question now is, what do you do when the fragments of broken souls start to think, and worse, when they start to remember who they were? Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this story, drop a like, share it with a friend, and hit that subscribe button for more. Because we're just getting started, and trust me, it only gets crazier from here. Peace.